Everyone, welcome back to the channel. We have Kellan James again. If you guys like Kellan James on the last one, then definitely smash that like button. And in this video, we're going to talk about finding cash flowing deals in a stupid, insane, hot market that we both invest in. Insane markets, I think.
Yeah.
It's stupid hot right now.
Yeah.
So if you guys want to know about finding these deals at Cashflow, we're not going to start until you smash that like button. Where you got to click the like button.
We're going to wait.
We're just going to wait. All right, you've clicked. Thank you. Yeah, I mean, I know you just bought another property, and I just am in the process of selling and buying some property. Mm-hmm. Where are you finding cash flow today?
So first off, 90% of the stuff these days is going to basically has to be off market. I mean, there might be the occasional on market listing, but it's going to be like, sorting by oldest listing first and maybe finding stuff that's been sitting around that people just for some reason didn't see or whatever it may be.
And that's true in January, I think.
Yeah.
Like today, it's funny, I was talking to another realtor, and typically there's around 300 listings in Burlington.
Yeah.
And there's less than 100 listings right now. And, that's about 13 days worth of inventory, right? Like if nothing else came on the market in 13 days, we would have nothing to sell. So obviously that's very, very true today. That might not be true in a couple months yet.
Yeah.
I mean, I found great deals on MLS sometimes. So, now I think that's very, very true.
Yes, yeah, and I've definitely gotten, probably maybe 30% of my portfolio has been on market in the past, but currently right now, it seems to be basically almost impossible. So off market is definitely where we're gonna have to go. But one thing right off the bat is like people need to understand that when they're looking for like whatever the if you're going for 1% rule or whatever the rule is you're looking for, to really look at what it could be after you've gotten turnover, after you've gotten renovations. Essentially ignore the current rents. I mean, people are looking at what are the current utility bills and what do the tenants pay? Like none of that matters. I mean, it kind of does in terms of initially purchasing the property and make sure it services itself for the debt for the bank. But otherwise, it's really about what's it going to be once you've gotten the turnover. If it's a 2-bedroom unit, what do you think that 2-bedroom unit could rent for if you had the renovations you wanted in there? So,
and I know we've talked about this in previous videos. You don't expect cash flow day one, do you?
No, not year one. Like year one, essentially, I'm not expecting it. A lot of the properties I'm purchasing are going to be converted dwellings. So generally not going to be a lot of purpose-built stuff. I would love to get that stuff, but the numbers just don't tend to work as well.
It's true.
So converted dwellings, and I mean, with properties like that, a lot of them are older, and therefore they probably have a lot of deferred maintenance as well. And you could try to deal with a lot of that on day one, and I definitely try to do that. But there's going to be all sorts of things that come up in that first year. Like, you fix a bunch of things, but it turns out somewhere in the plumbing system, there's something that's got to get snaked, or, it turns out, the sewer line needs to get done or whatever, right? Like there's always going to be stuff in the first year. And this is why it's nice, it's just important to understand in the first year, sometimes the first couple of years, property's not going to cash flow, but you need to understand, a lot of people don't have patience, but, you need to understand that this is a long-term thing. They were talking about long-term wealth, right? Yeah. It's the idea that you're going to build, you're going to be able to force the appreciation. You're going to hopefully get long-term market appreciation. You get the mortgage pay down, and you get the cash flow when the time comes.
Well, everybody wants to be like Kellan, though. Everyone wants to retire in 4 years.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, for me, it took me so I had 32 units when I left my day job back in, I don't know, a couple of years ago at this point.
That is 2021. So.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It was, I think it was 2019. And even at that point, I was still, I was definitely getting cash flow, but some months, maybe not, right? Just because it's I had a lot of units that were still turning over that had never been renovated. I mean, you can't always get all of your units empty, right? So there was still the occasional, tenants leaving, fantastic. Now we can finally renovate that unit. And now you got to put 10 grand in. I mean, you don't cash flow that month, right? Yeah. Your whole portfolio doesn't cash flow that month. So dealing with deferred maintenance, I literally had a season of that, like a whole year of that, essentially. I bought those 32 units, and then I literally spent a year, basically a year, not buying anything. I think I bought a duplex that year. I just spent that whole year turning over units, getting everything rented, building my foundation, because it's so important. I get calls now, people reaching out I just bought 3 properties, they all lose $1,000 a month, $2,000 a month. How do I get my 4th property? Well, like, okay, back off a second. Like, you got to build your foundation as you go, right?
Yeah.
Like, let's get these properties you have in a good place. I think a lot of people see, you know, people like myself or whoever that have a large portfolio, but they don't understand what it took to get there.
Yeah.
And along the way, you're building that foundation so that, you know, as you go, if you fall, you have a solid foundation to fall back on. You're not falling, you know, all the way back to where you started.
Basically, I mean, we're talking about buying cash flowing properties today. Obviously, some of the younger guys, they went out to Windsor a couple years ago. Now, obviously, that's a stupid hot market. You know, a lot of people talking about Sudbury right now.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, some of the things, like I've seen it, like you could, like up until probably September, October, November of last year, you could buy a bungalow somewhere,
Right,
on market, duplex it, cash flow. So it's kind of thinking, I think, not just like, okay, I got to buy a single family.
yeah.
And do it. I'm going to buy something and put some work into it.
Yeah, I think that's the thing now, right? Is someone wants to get into real estate. Well, why don't I buy a condo in Toronto? And then they go, okay, maybe that doesn't make sense. Maybe now the thing is converted dwellings, right? Let's add a secondary unit. So a lot of people are starting to do that. And then people are like, you know, at the end of the day, you're putting $100,000 renovation and now you own a duplex and it makes you a couple $100 a month. It's not that exciting and it's a ton of work.
Yep.
So then they're like, well, maybe I can get 3-4 unit buildings. I think that is still a bit of a sweet spot at this point, depending on your market.
I mean, we've had Josh Doyle on a couple times.
Yeah.
And he's killing it with his, right?
Yeah,
like he'll pull out $100,000 and cash flow $1,000 a month.
Exactly. And that's what I've built a lot of my portfolio, very similar type stuff. And I think the idea, you mentioned different markets and stuff, you know, I really like to pick one market and focus on it. I think it's really important to like understand your market like the back of your hand so that when an opportunity does present itself, you're able to jump on it right away. You're able to be patient, but then jump on it when it does present itself.
It's funny though, because I get new investors that come to me and they're like, well, what market should I choose?
Yeah.
I go, well, go out and do your research.
Yeah.
Go out and look at properties, look at like places for rent, and pick 4 or 5.
Yeah.
Like if it's Peterborough or Sudbury, like you might have to drive.
Yeah.
Like, and yet if it's worth you investing hundreds of thousands of dollars, it's worth driving a couple hours.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. If it's going to be Hamilton, you go check out Hamilton. Like this is just what you do. I mean, it just happened to be in your backyard that you invested.
I'm very lucky to have already been living in London, and it turned out to be a fantastic market to invest in right from the day I started. So very lucky in that regard. But absolutely, like if your strategy doesn't, if Burr strategy doesn't work in your market, then you need to go to market where that strategy does work. Or if you want to stay in your market, then you got to change your strategy to one that does work in your market. So I think like I'm reading the book right now, Delivering Happiness. I think it's an awesome book, by the way. It's about like the founder of Zappos.
Okay.
And he talked about, he started playing poker at one point in his career. And he talked about, you know, people think of poker as bluffing and like trying to get the best hand and all of that kind of stuff. And of course, that's a big part of the game. But, you know, one thing that a lot of people don't talk about is choosing what table you sit at to begin with, right?
Yeah.
Like you can sit at the table with a bunch of experienced a bunch of experienced poker players, or you can sit at a table with maybe less experienced ones or ones that have been sitting there for the last 6 hours and they're exhausted. You know, you can sit down at that table and you're probably a little more likely to win. So maybe that's Sudbury right now, right? Or maybe Chatham or St. Thomas or Sarnia, or like some of these markets that the numbers tend to work a little bit better. I think like London still has potential, but it's starting to get tough for sure. Windsor, same idea. Like the numbers they still work quite well, but I mean, it is getting difficult. And you know, if you're going to work in those markets, you better be ready to have the strategies necessary to find off-market deals, and really, you know, that's where that's going to be sitting.
Yeah, and if cash flow from day one is your objective, then you might have to get on a plane.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just what has to happen. You might have to go out to the East Coast. You might have to go out to Alberta, Saskatchewan, Manitoba.
The States.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like even the States, though, like I'm looking at some places down there and it's not like, you're not getting the 1% rule.
No, and there tends to be like this thing where, you know, if there's places where you're getting 1% rule, or Bigger Pockets used to talk about 2% rule and stuff like that, there's markets where that exists, but those markets don't have any appreciation. I mean, you have to get cash flow, because if you don't, you're losing money every month, and you know, you own that property for 10 years and it's worth the same amount as when you bought it.
Or less.
Yeah, so it's nice to find a sweet spot. If you can find a market where, you know, the property cash flows, but you also see potential in that city and it seems to be on an upturn, like, then that's a great market to invest in. And if you can even further take it one step further and find neighborhoods that you think have potential and really get into those neighborhoods, I mean, that's something that I've really focused on. I invest heavily in Old East Village of London, Ontario. It's the kind of neighborhood where you walk down the street and maybe someone's, pushing a shopping cart, and then right next to it is a craft brewery or a vegan bakery or whatever, right?
That's like Ottawa Street in Hamilton.
Yeah.
And I own a bunch around there too,
yeah.
And I actually bought the worst building there.
Right.
It was all crackheads.
Yeah. I think it's important to like get comfortable with that stuff. A lot of early investors, when they're first looking at properties, they're looking for the nice stuff, but they very quickly realize like the money's made in the stuff that's a little bit rougher. It's not necessarily buying in a rough neighborhood, but buying a rougher property that you can put some work in. And that's what sweat equity is all about.
I call it hair. There's a lot of hair on the deal, right? Like one of the properties I'm selling has a lot of hair on it.
Right.
It's 29 units, mostly bachelor units. I actually have I
love bachelor units.
Well, I actually can convert them into one bedrooms.
Oh,
junior
nice.
one bedrooms, right?
Nice.
So I have the plans for that, but of course we're selling them, and I got a young guy, and he's like super keen on it because he can go in and do the work and make it all happen. And he's going to make a mint. If you're not finding cash flow in the deals you're looking at, you either got to change your strategy.
Yeah. Or change your market.
Or change your market, right?
Yeah.
So if you're just looking for like that cash flowing condo, maybe you're buying a duplex or triplex in a different market. Or I mean, even in Toronto, you can go buy a single family home, convert it into something, and it'll cash flow at the end of the day.
Oh yeah, I don't know the market, so
like if you find a good enough deal. But like there was, I don't know. Do you know Aaron Moore?
No, I don't.
So
actually.
Aaron Moore, he's a wholesaler out of Oshawa, but he does some stuff in the Junction in Toronto, and he did a deal, and guy bought it off him.
Yeah.
And he converted into three units, cash flowing $2,000 a month.
Amazing.
Refied out all his money.
Yeah. Amazing.
In Toronto. Like what more do you need?
Oh, that's fantastic. Absolutely.
Yeah. So this can be done anywhere. It's just a matter of, do you know your market?
Yes.
Do you have the team? Are you ready to go? And if an opportunity does come up that's super good, can you jump on it right away?
Yeah, exactly. Be acutely familiar with the market. That's where people don't like hearing to have patience, but like a lot of patience has gone into, I'm sure, both of our journeys, right? Like it looks like it's just massive scaling and buying everything as fast as possible. It's not what it is, right?
No.
Like it's patience. And then if you have cash and you're ready to go and a great opportunity presents itself and you're very familiar with that market and that strategy, you jump on it right away, like that day, right? That's how you get good deals.
I mean, that 100 units in that like quadruple A location that's fell in my lap.
Yeah.
It's
and you're
not
ready to go.
It's not my primary market.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's somewhere where I've wanted to be for a long time.
Yeah.
So
it's like luck, right? Luck, preparation meeting opportunity. And I mean, you're in a place where you were like looking to hopefully liquidate some places, sell some stuff off, be ready to buy into another opportunity.
That's right.
You position yourself to be ready for that. And these things come up if you're connected with enough people and you've legitimized yourself, like these things present themselves eventually. And if they're not presenting themselves, you gotta get out there, network not just with investors but with people, homeowners, that kind of stuff.
Well, I mean, the deal came to me from a realtor.
Yeah,
Like
realtors, property managers, contractors.
Yep. Like obviously, it's getting harder in London.
Yeah.
What are you doing now that you did differently than when you started?
I don't think that a lot has changed in that, like pretty early on I was focused on off-market deals. So like I'm still focused on that. I think that like one thing that I try and differ, like of course you can act like a wholesaler. If you want to find off-market deals, you can start a flyer campaign. You can scour Kijiji. You can send out a team of people door knocking. You can hire a VA to call every phone number on the internet with an address attached to it.
Not on the do not call it.
yeah, exactly. But like, it's a game of numbers. It's a game of volume. So, you can approach it that way, or you can, approach it a bit more in a sniping fashion.
You can be the guy on King Street in Hamilton that in the Big Bird costume saying, I buy ugly homes.
Yeah. You could.
I close homes fast. I don't remember what it was, but I used to drive past that guy every day. And I'm like, man, that guy's hustling. I love it. I'm hoping he pays some kid to be in it.
I was going to say, he's probably hired someone to do it.
Yeah, I mean, after the first deal, probably, yeah.
But like my strategy has always been a little bit more targeted. I really like to focus on connecting up with people one-on-one as much as I can, and really targeting very specific properties. There's still an aspect of volume to it. You still need to present yourself, talk to enough people, but really about building quality relationships with people, letting everyone know you pay a finder's fee, and like, you know, you get $1,000 just for passing me your phone number, the owner's phone number, or getting me in touch with them. If I buy the property, you get $1,000, right? I'll e-transfer it to you. The more people that know that,
I like cash better.
Cash, exactly. Yeah. Whatever, right? Yeah, cash. The more people that know that, the more likely they are to remember who you are and keep your name in their phone.
Well, I mean, I know Ian Zabo out in Oshawa, like all his dump guys, all his
exactly.
You know, the 1-800 got junk guys that he uses, like gives them the card. The guys who drop off the bins for him.
Yeah,
says, hey, you find somebody, I pay you $1,000, right?
Yep. I've had property managers, my junk guy, like leads come in from all these things that I've actually purchased. There's could be a window cleaner and a duct clean, like a, you know, eavesdrop cleaner guys, like anyone. But property managers are a good one. It's just, you need to be aware that they don't want to just lose their clients, right? So you need to properly incentivize them. Tenants are tough too, because you need to properly incentivize them because they don't want to get kicked out of their house. So it's, every relationship's different. I like to approach it with like quality leads, less so on the quantity side of things, but you know, pick a strategy and just work at it every day.
Guys, if you're out there looking for cash flowing deals, change your location, change your strategy, or get on your horse and start get out there and talk to people. You know, it's a contact sport. The more contacts you make, the more contracts you'll make.
I like that. I like that.
You like that one? All right. All right, guys. Thanks, everyone. See you in the next one.